So I want to ask a few more questions just about prose poems that you have here. Okay. Let's use that, and why not jump into the guardian angel of gratitude. This also merges the mention of modality. May I just read from this?
For sure.
Okay, and forgive my nasality.
Fine, right.
Guardian angel of gratitude. I am the guardian angel of Moda'ani, the gentlest of prayers. The prayer children are taught first. The prayer adults do not take all that seriously. They should. I am the prayer of gratitude. I am the angel of thanksgiving. Thanks giving every moment. And gratitude, of course, suffuses the soul with cosmic energy. And gratitude, of course, wraps us in a metaphysical shield. Gratitude that each and every one of us is at the epicenter of the cosmos. Gratitude that life force flows through each of us, tracking forward to the ends of time. And tracking back to the genesis point, and perhaps these points converge. Gratitude that we are the recipients of love, and gratitude that we can give love. Gratitude for each and every person who loves us, even a bit, and gratitude for each and every person who we love, even a bit. Gratitude that we are cosmic guardians of love and creativity. Gratitude that we have arisen for another day, representing a microcosm of a lifetime of life. Gratitude for the richness and variety of creation's potentials. Gratitude with its implicit theme of wonderment is a magic vitamin. It infuses our being with cosmic energy, and rightfully so. Gratitude given with love opens a doorway to greater potential.
Not
bad. So talk to me about that.
I'll mess it up if I say anything. I'll mess it up.
I want to know. It's somewhere. It's a prose poem. It's a prayer itself. It's the kind of supplemental reading you're likely to see. Pardon me, but outside of Orthodox synagogues, right? You're likely to see this, or increasingly maybe as a supplemental reading.
Let's delve on that point right there.
Yeah.
You see, what Orthodox could use a more of a dose of proactive humanism.
Yes.
And maybe that's what you're touching on. And there's nothing anti-Orthodox, non-Orthodox about being humanistic. Oh, I'm guilty also. You take it away, okay? Just take it away.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Just take it away. Thanks. So there's nothing non-Orthodox about being humanistic, but the Orthodox could use a heavier dose of humanism, and they should have to get with the program. And one can make a very strong case that humanism is central to Orthodoxy, but they have to do it in practice. They have to, in practice, and also embrace it more thread through theology. There's no negatives, there's only positives to it. Only positives.
Okay, and tell me just your thinking behind writing this like a prose poem.
I must tell you, I can't even explain that whole section.
Okay.
And in fact, I think I wrote this basically once through. This meaning, there was very little editing with these pieces. I wrote them, there are 120 total. Maybe I wrote them 5 or 10 at a time. I would frankly go out to Montauk for a few days just to write these pieces. I can't fully explain it. I wanted to develop the theme that we're surrounded by different potentials. And I try to take 120 after the Great Sanhedrin had 120 members. I try to take show different potentials, some with great gravitas,
right,
like truth.
Yes. And
some with less gravitas, like snowflakes falling. Bubbles, right.
Yeah.
All these potentials came out of the cosmic font, and they're limitless potentials. And we are potential. And this is my way of getting my arms around it. You see, after I wrote book 1, which came out in 1988, I knew I had to develop more to write book 2. And I didn't know how to get my arms around book 2. Book 2, I wanted to track more into the meaning of potential. I had great difficulty myself getting my arms around it. Great difficulty. And then I alluded prior in the discussion to my talk at Ohev Tzedek on 95th Street on Yom HaShoah, and where I talked about 100 angels, not 120. And what the theme that emerged from that, okay, the angel of life, that sort of emerges from that medrash. And I goes, what if I extrapolated that to 120 angels, and I talked in their name, as if I was that angel? Maybe by playing out 120 angels, almost extemporaneously, I would somehow, hopefully, get my message across. What we're talking about, free-flowing, not thinking about it too much, and just take it as they came. Okay, angel of snowflakes, angel of truth, angel of mercy, angel of victory, boom, boom, and let me just go for it.
Yeah.
And that's the genesis. It became one of the 3 sections in book 2, because infinite potential, as we've said, it's so hard to get your arms around it. It's so vast. It's everything. So it's my modality, my instrument, to give us one wedge into it.
Okay.
I have different wedges into it in book 2, as you know. One is highly intellectualized, and this is more prose poetry, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then I have a 3rd section, which is the Lost Manual, day-to-day applications.
Right.
I'm wedging into the theme from different directions, and trying to give a feel for what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and there's a playfulness here also.
Okay, fair enough.
So I forgot about this, the snowstorms on, the guardian angel of snowstorms on school days that begins 6 inches. Yeah. Great, they're going to cancel now. Cool, day off. So that leads me to something we discussed right at the beginning.
Right.
We started this talking about you as a little boy having this awareness.
Right.
And it seems throughout, if you're able to access this, to get into the magic of bubbles,
Right.
rainbows, horseback riding on the beach,
Right.
snowstorms on school days, what that does also is something, it's almost as sacrilegious as denying randomness in the universe, which is that you're seeing the divine in the trite, the trivial,
Right.
the mundane,
Right.
right?
Well, let's remember clearly that I'm saying divine could be lowercase d or uppercase d. Divine can be spirituality, pervading the cosmic order, or divine could be uppercase d, the God of Israel, or related, other global religious gods. Now, so one can take this as one wants. One can see divinity with lowercase d, infinite potential, coursing through everything. Or one can see the God of creation coursing through everything. That's really an individual decision. And frankly, one can switch focuses as one wishes. One year, you can view infinite potential as spiritual, non-religious. And you might morph in life, decide, I'm going to try looking through everything through a religious lens. There's nothing that says that you can't evolve or morph over time any which way.
Okay.
It's all part of the wonderment of the cosmic order. And if I'm saying the universe wants potential, it wants potential for you to play out different directions also. Yeah, right.
All right, so let's break it down to
Right.
the here and now.
Okay.
How do you live your life according to this philosophy? You didn't just write books and then put them on a shelf. Tell me how this infuses your daily life as a person, interpersonally, in your professional realms, in other realms.
Well, first of all, I say I write books, which it's a big deal for me to write a book, a big effort for me to write books. It's a big production, and it has to fit a few criteria. And one criteria is that the book is missing from my kids' library. Another criteria that it might impact the world if I'm successful. So now, And I'm also saying that each of us is a potential, pure potential. So I have to remind myself sometimes of the same theme, not to get too difficult, not to become overly difficult, yada yada, So, of course, you have to be on track for your objectives. But I know when I'm heading into a big mission or a big sales situation, I say to myself, play out your full emotional potential. Don't constrain it. Be who you can be emotionally, internally, even if you're not articulating it. Go into the meeting fully sort of rocking and rolling in your mind, fully energized.
Okay.
But I find, like many things in life, if you have a guiding principle, it pervades pretty much what you do. What I have observed in life is also that, you see, there are two extremes, two forks in a row. One is do what's best for you, always. And the other extreme is be thoroughly humanistic always. And on this extreme is like good guys finish last. My perception is good guys do not finish last. Good guys often finish first.
Yes.
You have to be prudent, but good guys finish first. Ultimately, people want to deal with humanistic people. Two vendors both have the same terrific product. They will buy from the more humanistic vendor. Two great restaurants, you go to the one with more humanistic proprietor, et cetera, et cetera. I believe it's underestimated in the business world, that particular component. And of course, the more humanistic you are, you'll attract humanistic people. And that's really what you want in your circle, frankly speaking, So that partially answers your question, right?
Yeah. Well, it partially, yes, and I'll just say that I not only do I agree, but I've observed the same thing as well.
Right.
And ever since the idea of corporate accountability became an idea, we admire companies that are run like Ben and Jerry's, or companies, if Target as a corporation underwrites cultural programs, we as a society give value to that.
Right.
So but I want to press you a little bit more.
Right.
I share your belief,
Right.
but I want you to the point where you're comfortable to talk about your Summa Metaphysica on the ground in terms of your day through the lens of infinite potential. I love the idea of going into a meeting, rocking and rolling.
Right.
I think, and look, we spoke about this off camera a little bit. It's a little different from the self-empowerment.
Right, it's still different. Although we admire that group.
Yes.
This brings it to a whole other level, But I mean, let's be clear that whole self-empowerment, self-actualization is very genuine and helpful. And this is looking at from a slightly different context, from more metaphysical, spiritual, sort of holistic. You probably have the word holistic. It's fully integrated.
Yes.
Self-actualization is not just self-actualization. It's tapping, according to Summa, into cosmic currents.
Right.
Just like, according to Summa, Tikkun Olam, repairing, perfecting the world, is not just spiritual. It's tapping into grand cosmic currents. That's why a recent article on Summa talked about Tikkun Olam. How Summa is on the same page as Tikkun Olam.
Right.
Even though I don't think Summa has the word Tikkun Olam in it.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
What's your next step in terms of developing the Summa Metaphysica theory, or it's like a suite in a way, isn't it? Yeah.
Right. Well, the nice part about Summa theory is it's, on one hand, it's one sentence. Potential drives the universe. On the other hand, it's a non-ending universe of discussion, which is nice. You wedge into it with one sentence. So, like many things, I take it step by step, and I'm learning as I go. The word that academics use is traction, and I think that I know that the theory is known globally in the academic community. That's for sure. We know because we have about 1.5 million academics on our email mailing list. So we know that they know as well. Okay, and like many things in life, you want to do it within a measured manner, you know. And sort of steady as she goes. I joke around that writing a book is sort of like bringing up a child. You know, your job is to bring up the child till age. It used to be till age 18. Now it's till age 22, whatever, and launch and launch. You know, you launch. So the author's job is to write the book, give it a little push, and maybe a little push further.
Yeah.
And see, you know, if the time permits and the fates are kind. We're talking about now the history of ideas realm. How do you sell an idea? In my day job, I'm selling $250,000 gems. In my night job, I'm selling an idea. I'm selling a rarefied concept. To me, it's so fascinating. You know, how do you sell an idea? And the answer is sort of step by step.
So do things surprise you daily about the world? Do you feel like, you've got this firm grip on what's happening? Are you shocked, surprised, pushed off course? Does Summa deal with every possible thing? Does everything that happened?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I'm careful to see that it does handle everything.
Okay.
Any new science documentaries come out, I'm the first one online for the new IMAX at the Museum of Natural History, because I want to see, does this documentary also fully comport to Summa? I'm terrible. I'm always observing people and animals and you name it, to see if it all comports to the Summa theory,
Right.
or can it build out a little bit on the Summa theory. I've been at this for a long time, since age 32, as I mentioned, since Barbados, age 32. I've been careful to watch to see there's no contradictory evidence or logic contradicting it, and it holds together. It holds together. In fact, it gets better. Actually, it gets better. You know, part of when you propose a theory or metaphysics, you can't prove it classically, like in a laboratory, but you can support it what's called inductively. Laboratory proof is called deductive proof. I saw this experiment, therefore I have this conclusion. Inductive proof is sort of similar to circumstantial evidence. We have billions of pieces of circumstantial evidence that Summa is correct, and there's no contradictory evidence. That's inductive proof. In courtroom, that would be convicting by circumstantial evidence, which is not so simple. To convict by circumstantial evidence, you want a lot of circumstantial evidence, and you want no contradictory evidence. Roughly similar to inductive proof in metaphysics. Or else you say, I have this theory, the Zyklon theory, but where's the circumstantial evidence? I have circumstantial evidence for Summa, how I see the cosmos evolving, heading towards the more extraordinary. Over the last 150 years, we see how we went from Big Bang to stars, to galaxies, to life on Earth, to humans, to ever-increasing consciousness. We see that trajectory. On the life sciences level, we see the evolution of species from the simple to the complex. Mr. Darwin, who made his name on Galapagos and roughly put survival of the fittest, had only a small piece of the equation right. Survival is necessary, but it's not sufficient. For you and Ari, survival, to have food and pay the rent, is necessary, but it's not sufficient. You want much more than survival. And so does the universe. And so does evolution of species. It's necessary, but it's far from sufficient. The universe shoots for the extraordinary, and so do you and Ari.
Uh-huh.
You both on an individual level are shooting for the extraordinary, step by step. You may not take out a neon sign, I'm shooting for the extraordinary. Basically, that's what you're doing. You're trying to build out your talent with your talents and your networks and what you can deliver to the universe, and keep building it out. And you iterate. A year from now, you're going to say, okay, a year from now, your objectives will be slightly different than your objectives today. Because a year from now, you have more evolved, you have more arrows in your quiver, and the universe does exactly the same thing. And I joke around, I was on Galapagos also, and I looked at the same species as Mr. Darwin, and I saw extraordinariation, not survival. Looking at the same set of evidence on the same island as Mr. Darwin. Interesting, right?
That's fascinating. No, this I love the whole extraordinary. I have trouble saying it, but
I
love
call
the
it
idea.
E plus for short.
E plus.
E plus, yeah.
So let me ask you this, and I may have to conclude with this,
Okay.
as my cold is.
All right.
Do you feel with all this,
Right.
this belief,
Right.
though, that in the internet era, let me put it this way, I fear that humankind is devolving in certain ways, having to do with empathy, having to do with the intrusion of screens into our daily life so that we're no longer looking into each other's eyes, reading each other's emotions. There's this intermediary of technology now. We're distracted a lot. I think there's an objectification going on with millennials right now in terms of relationship forming, as opposed to what can I give this person, it's more what can I get from this person in some of what I've personally observed. Do you worry, do you share any of those concerns about, or do you feel that we're, in fact, it's quite the opposite, that we're becoming more and more evolved and extraordinary?
I think so many components of life, food, money, power, sexuality, and onward, they can be used, the internet can be used for good or for negative. We can either advance through them or we can devolve. It depends how you play it. And many new technological innovations over the centuries, the initial deployment was not so great, but the eventual deployment was profound. So there's so many facets of dimensions to our existence. It depends how you play it. I think that would be my answer to your question.
Okay.
You have to defend yourself, against the negativity. But you want to you want to roll with the positive stuff.
Right.
Like the internet, you can use it it can make you vulnerable to attack, to defamation, but you can also use it to promulgate ideas.
Right. I think I didn't
Right.
phrase it correctly, because I'm a fully cyber person. I love the internet. I don't buy into the panic narrative in terms of, it's doing this, that. But what I do see, what I've observed,
Right.
is that there's I've observed certain trends.
Right.
And the trends mostly have to do with the generation born entirely into the internet age.
Right.
It has to do with a very simple thing. I'll give you some observations. Walking down the street, watching a mother push her child in the stroller. The kid is talking to the mother, and the mother's like, talking while texting. It's ubiquitous. It is, or going to a restaurant, everybody sees this.
Stop. My favorite is
Yes.
walking Central Park around the reservoir, and the boy and the girlfriend are holding hands, each on their own cell phone,
Yes.
talking. That's my favorite.
That's a variation on it. So there's that. There's 4 people sitting around the table. Everyone's on their.
Right.
So we know what's happening. We're observing. So there is a lessening of an immediate and unfettered engagement with the other, right? And so
Which brings us to Shabbos.
it does. Everything, yes.
I'm friendly with Rabbi Benjamin Blech, the legendary Benjamin Blech, and he would say, look at the genius of Judaism, which brought us to Shabbos, where you are eating a beautiful meal together in a spiritual environment, interacting, talking, engaging,
Yes.
spiritually, intellectually, where literally your internet is barred from usage. So that sort of wraps everything together, no?
It does. And I mean, not to quote myself, but I wrote a few years ago, it's as if God, in God's infinite wisdom, foresaw the advent of the cyber age.
I didn't want to say it, but Bloch would say it.
Yes. But I feel this very profoundly.
Right.
And I once wrote about actually the Shabbat, the Kiddush in the shul as being the only social environment available if you're in a somewhat observant synagogue,
Right.
where your conversations with people are not interrupted by, bings, blings, whatever, tings, tweets.
Right.
And I am guilty as charged. My phone went off in the middle of this.
Right.
So I guess we those of us who have the consciousness, I think take measures to prevent ourselves from being cyber era bots.
Be drowned by it. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's for another discussion.
For sure.
But I want to thank you. This is, first of all, the fact that we had this conversation on Erev Shabbos going into Shabbat.
TGIF.
Is great. Thank God it's Friday. And I see this as really just one in many conversations.
I'm honored. I want to thank you for being so incisive, so learned, so smart, and it was a great interview. I would say I don't have to ask too many questions about people. They tell me about themselves from their questions.
Yes. No, it's true. You learn.
Right.
That's exactly. So you learn about the other person.
So this is a great experience, and thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And thanks everybody. God bless.